my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are going to be taking a look at Kaiju number 8, and we'll be asking ourselves the question, why is it suddenly so important that Mina Ashiro is so powerful that she can hit with the literal power of a battleship when we already knew that? Okay, so what am I talking about? Now, there will be spoilers all the way from chapter 1 to chapter 77, so if you haven't read to chapter 77 in Kaiju number 8 yet, click away from this video now, go check out the links below the video while you wait to get yourself a copy of my book, Humans Are Weird. This is a short story collection of human absurdity, and if you don't feel like laughing at this absurdity of humanity, you can check out a copy of my book, You can check out a copy of Dying Embers, Dragons, Aliens, and Things That Go Boom in the Night, guaranteed to make you break down crying no matter where you are. All right, back to Kaiju number 8. Now, let us go back to the very beginning, not just the first chapter of this series, the first page of the first chapter. A 15-story tall salamander kaiju is attacking Tokyo. This would be the boss battle in most kaiju manga. At least, but the boss battle of the first season. But no, this is the first page. The radio is blaring out the evacuation alert. This needs to evacuate, and then wait, we just got news. The kaiju's dead. Giant kaiju attacking the city. It's dead before it leaves the first page of the manga. And then we find out later that it was the 3rd Division with the beautiful Captain Mina Ashiro leading them. And as the series goes on, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, Mina's power, Mina's presence, Mina's value to the defense force, it keeps getting driven home. Nothing major focusing on it. The story is about Kafka, after all, not Mina, and Mina only comes in as she affects Kafka. But Kafka sees her as this awesome, almighty powerhouse, and she is the golden girl of the defense force. She's the captain they promote with, not their actual strongest, Jinrumi. It's like their second or even possibly their 3rd strongest, Mina Ashiro. But still, when it comes down to that one thing, to ranged weapons, she is the strongest. For long distance ranged weapons, no one can touch her. And this is very delicately fed to us in half panels and quarter panels. And then we have the giant battle with the fungal kaiju, where Kaiju number 9 shows up for the 2nd time, and we get a few awesome panels of her blasting out the fungal kaiju. But those are still not so much about her power. That's about where we learn how the Kaiju Defense Force uniforms work, where we learn how costly they are to the bodies of the officers. This is where we set up how important it is that these little smaller kaiju are taken care of, because they will cost money and time. And when people's lives are on the line, what do we care about money and time? We care a lot, because after all, the money that it costs to rebuild a bodega, to buy a new car, that's not just money. That's the work and the effort that each citizen is going to have to put into it. That is the human face of the cost of these kaiju attacks. It's just been, to monetize it like that doesn't reduce it. It just puts it into a relative form that's easy to understand on paper. And that's what Vice Captain Oshina is saying to Kafka. What you do here in this last line, you rookies, is going to determine how long it takes us to recover. It's going to determine how much suffering there's going to be from this attack. And so Mina's power was just a background to all that, to the real story, which was about the human cost of these attacks. So anyway, we have 75 chapters of this, of telling the story of what's going on the human level, of Kafka fighting down the beast within him, of learning how these humans are affected on the day-to-day, how they have apps on their phones that tell them how to get to shelters, how these people connect with the officers who protect their area. And in all of that, Mina's power is a steady, constant background note. It's always there. Now, One thing that we've seen again and again in this series is that Matsumoto doesn't waste panels. In fact, one of my first theories that came to fruition was the thing about the suits overheating, because way back in chapter 2, the Matsumoto took 3 panels, just 3, to make a joke about the Kaiju number 8 body peeing from its nipples. And what caught me wasn't the joke itself. It was a fairly common shonen toilet humor joke. It was the fact that Matsumoto burns 3 whole panels on it. And multiple times throughout the series, my first hint that introduced the concept of the Kaiju's overheating and the heat that comes with their transformations. But multiple times throughout the series, my attention has been drawn to very plot important details based solely on the number of panels that was used to introduce them. And a large number of panels being used to introduce any one concept is quite simply a green flag, I guess you will. It says, hey, come here, look at this. This is going to be important. Look at how much time, space, effort I'm putting into this. And so when chapter 76 rolls around and Matsumoto burns 11 pages specifically on how powerful Captain Mina Ashiro is, how she can take out these giant class kaiju with one shot from 15 miles away. Okay, 20 kilometers, that's about 15 miles. That is the range of the most famous battleship of all time, the Bismark. There's even a song about it. The Bismark started firing from 15 miles away. So there's sort of this mental scar on history. 15 miles is kind of like, for ballistics, for railguns, ballistics, that's kind of a limit, not for power, but for accuracy. And Mina can do that. Mina is as powerful in herself with her cannons as an entire battleship. Now, this is nothing we haven't seen before in the series. Like I said, the very first concept we were introduced to in this series, whether we knew it or not, was how powerful Captain Mina Ashiro was. So why did Matsumoto burn 11 pages? That is over 1/3 of that entire chapter. We're not talking about a number of panels here. Then we're talking a number of pages focused entirely on everybody witnessing how awesome and powerful Mina is. That is a giant green flag. Now, I'm still not sure what it was about, but I've got some theories, so let's stitch these theories together and see what we can come up with. The very next chapter, chapter 77, spoiler alert, we see our first on-screen officer deaths. This is the first time we've seen any officer die on screen. I'm not counting Director General Iso Shinomiya. We did not see him even get defeated on screen. Matsumoto made sure of that, and we saw him be absorbed twice, but we haven't seen him die yet. And there's been deaths referred to, hundreds of deaths, thousands of deaths, but none of them have actually happened on screen. And then chapter 77 comes in, and we get one of Matsumoto's corkscrew plot twists when we actually get to see Defense Force officers die on screen, literally center stage. So we now have a temporal or spatial connection between chapter 76 and 77. Mina is an awesome powerhouse. Defense Force officers can die. This goes all the way back to chapter, I believe it was chapter 9, where Vice Captain Hoshina says to Kafka, don't get too attached to anybody, anything can happen out there. With the implication being, yeah, these are your friends, but they're going to die. Something that Mina Ashiro also addressed when she welcomed the new recruits at the end of the application arc. Your friends are going to die. So Mina is the one who spoke of death. Vice Captain Hoshina reiterated it to Kafka, don't get too attached. Now that's going to come in more important. Because if anything happens to Mina, that would just gut Kafka. And like I said, the main thrust of this manga has always been the human cost of these kaiju attacks. What's happening down there at the human level when these awesome kaiju battles are happening? Now, let's go back to the beginning again. All the way back to chapter what was it? Let me check my notes here. Kaiju number 9. Anyway, it was after the attack on Tachikawa Base during the training arc when Kaiju number 9 revived the monsters and they nearly took out Kokoru, and Kafka saved her by going Kaiju number 8, and all that awesome stuff happened. After all of that, in the next chapter, when we get our first real look at Kaiju number 9 as a character, he's sitting there in the bathroom in Kaiju number 9 form, listening to the radio report on his smartphone. And he goes, wait, nobody died? He clearly meant there to be fatalities. He goes, is there that captain of theirs really that strong? Now this shows he doesn't really understand what a captain is. He doesn't know Mina, but her face is plastered over every billboard. He has the ability to research. He would have found that out really fast. So we know that Kaiju number 9 here is impressed with Mina's power and her ability to counter his plans. That puts a big old target on her back. And we know Kaiju number 9 is obsessed with getting back the power of the Kaiju that was stolen by the humans. We thought he was talking about Kaiju number 8, but no, he didn't even know that Kaiju number 8 really was in the power of the humans. Just that he was behaving rather human-like at that point. Turns out he was after the weapons. And then we discover that in order to absorb the power of the old Kaiju weapons, the weapons has to be in use by a compatible user, and it kind of has to be warmed up. So it can't just be the user wearing it. The weapon has to be in sync with the user, warmed up and active. So there's a time delay there. But the thing is, we've never seen Mina wield a numbered weapon. We don't know that Mina can wield a numbered weapon, because after all, these numbered weapons, it's not just how much power you have. It's not nearly just about that. It's also about how well you're able to synchronize with the weapon. And as we've seen, Mina only really does one thing well when it comes to battle. As a massive of a powerhouse as she is, she's a cannon. And the one drawback to a cannon is that it's not very agile, not very flexible. You point it in one direction, you blast with astonishing power. The cannon literally destroyed the use for castles, but again, it can't do a lot of different things. So for all that Mina has a bunch of custom weapons, they're all basically cannons. And she so much lacks the ability to even brace herself when she's using these things that she has to have a genetically modified liger to brace her when she's using her mobile cannons. She really is a stationary target, and a target she is going to be, because she is clearly interfering with Kaiju number 9's plans, and he probably knows he needs to take it out. Now, the song that hailed the powers of the Bismark, that immortalized the fact that it could shoot from 15 miles away, well, that was the song Sink the Bismark. And the other refrain in the Bismark is, we gotta sink the Bismark. When you have a weapon that powerful aimed at you, you have to get rid of it. Mina is the Bismark for Kaiju number 9. And so he is probably going to be willing to send his entire navy, all of his Kaiju, against her to take out that weapon. Now, currently he's focusing on the other Defense Force officers, but Mina is, those other officers, they're agile, they're moving, they're focused on right now. Mina is within the safety of a military base, for all intents and purposes, chained to that cannon, that railgun, where they need her. She is a stationary target. All of the other ones are moving, and Kafka's and Kaiju number 8 are a long way away from her. So the question becomes, when is Kaiju number 8 going to go after Mina, and what's going to happen? Well, Mina is Kafka's reasons to fight. It was the memory of Mina's dependency on him, her need for him to protect her, that pulled him out of that kaiju rage that he was in when he was fighting Director General Shinamaya. It was his memories of Mina that pulled him out of his coma after they were done patching him back together after that fight. She is his reason to go on, his reason to be a Defense Force officer, his reason to overcome his own fear. From a storytelling perspective, from the perspective of the sadistic author who wants to get the most emotional punch out of every beat, Mina is the next logical Defense Force officer to kill. Everybody's attention is focused on the main battles. Mina's not on the front lines right now. Yeah, she can get up in that cannon and take Kaiju out as effectively as if she were on the front lines, but she is 20 kilometers away. And if push comes to shove, she is probably the most, if not this is maybe the most, possibly the second most attractive target on that field. And Kaiju number 9 has so many different Kaiju, and there's so many just of the ones that we know about that we haven't seen. So it's entirely plausible that Kaiju number 9's next step is to send a Kaiju after Mina and to have her killed. And then what's going to happen? Well, Mina dies. Now, if he was just going to absorb her, none of us are quite convinced, I think, that absorption is the final end. I still hope that we're going to get to see Hikari Shinomiya coming back, let alone Director General Shinomiya. But that's a whole nother theory. But just killing somebody, just taking them out, that's final in this universe. So what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Is all of this leading up? Is that using 1/3 of an entire chapter to reinforce a concept that we've known since chapter 1? Is that Mina's death flag? Is it, hey, look here, here's the most valuable resource, here's the Defense Forces Bismark. Kaiju number 9 is going to kill her. So what do you think? Is Mina not long for this world? Are we going to have to see Kafka struggle through finding a purpose to not just fight, but to live after he loses Mina? Or does Matsumoto not have the spoons, not have the guts to take out such a beloved character? Tell me what you think below in the comments. From a storytelling perspective, do you want Mina to be taken out? I mean, as an author, yeah, I kind of want to see that. As a reader, no, please don't. But anyway, leave a comment telling me what you think. I really don't want to know what you think of this theory. Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.